Hey there thinkers, welcome back to Critical Hit. My name is Est, and in this video we're going to talk about the climax of the third part special of Doctor Who. Now before I get into this, I do want to mention that The Beast received 5.08 million viewers, The Wild Blue Yonder, the second episode, received 4.83 million viewers, and for the final episode, The Giggle, it dropped down to 4.62 million viewers. Now, let's get into it. Now, this episode has been hotly anticipated since we found out that Neil Patrick Harris will be playing the Toymaker. Now, I love myself some Neil Patrick Harris. He is quite funny, and adding the Toymaker to the mix was quite refreshing, since it's a better choice than having to face the Master, the Derelicts, or even the Cybermen again. Now, I was quite curious going into this, how the Toymaker was going to be utilized. He had a questionable animated appearance to him previously, and I really just wanted to find out what was going to happen to the short-lived 14th Doctor, and how his story was going to, come to a close. Well, it is safe to say that Russell pre-warning the audience about this one containing a lot of shocking and controversial stuff was definitely not a lie. There will be some big talking points coming up here at the end, but first I want to talk about the main plot of this episode. I really enjoyed the fact that they showed us John Logie Bear with the invention of the television and giving it that Doctor Who spin, which wasn't bad, and thought to myself, why haven't they done this before? The idea of feeding a message through the TV was a nice nod to the Deer of the Moon from season 6. Whether or not that was intentional, I just like how they added it. So yes, there were a ton of references that were littered through this episode, referencing even old seasons, and one of the big ones was Mel was back. After a brief appearance in The Power of the Doctor, they never really utilized her as a computer programmer, and it was really nice to see her being able to use that knowledge at the unit group that consisted of Mel, Shirley, and Kate Stewart. They worked really well together. I really don't hate this team. I believe they could do a spin-off with them, considering what they want to do with the Whoniverse. The fact that the human race went crazy over this subconscious giggle was a nice touch, and the idea of how it makes people act is something that was not intentional from Russell here. We have the human race turning against each other, and they believe that personally, they are in the right. This is where it feels so much like meta writing from Russell. Just look at the Beast and how much backlash they received about the message. Even the backlash from The Wild Blue Yonder because of Isaac Newton's race and David's sexuality. And yes, there is plenty of stuff in the Giggle, and it will get people up in arms, even with a couple more lines of dialogue that make you think, that's not right. However, right there just proves Russell's point. He used this episode to say people can be hella awful to each other for just about any reason, and the Doctor's speech about badness of people was, telling. He handled it a bit too bluntly, just smashed it right into your face in my opinion. I'm sure in the comments in this video will prove Russell to be right. I do think this episode was a bit heavy on the terribleness of humanity. So as for the Toymaker, I actually liked how campy he felt. He was seriously knowledgeable about past Doctors and how he almost seemed like a parody character rather than an evil mastermind, like David Tennant referenced about. I really thought oh wow, this guy is really the real deal, an actual villain. But instead we got a spice up your life musical scene. It was ingenious to have Harris involved because of the pull factor. I liked his character, and I do hope he plays more of him down the line. This character will definitely be popular with the peoples. One point to be had with his seeming demise is that the Master is going to be running amok again, after being turned into a gold tooth. A hand with red fingernail polish picks up the tooth, and the migraine I got when I found out that the Master was going to be a woman, oh my goodness, shocker. This is supposed to be the exit for Tennant's Doctor and Gatwa's entrance more than anything. So now we can talk about the bigeneration. My instant reaction was, what? Yeah, the Doctor can regenerate and survive dying at the cost of his memories, traits, his character, and his personality, and even his appearance. Born as a new man, or apparently a woman once, it's a gift and a curse of the Time Lords. So why did they do this? It's bittersweet because in the real world, things die, and we have to move on, rather than just staying with one character. However, this bigeneration loses some importance. That's great for the 14th Doctor to get to live happily ever after with all the pain and loss that he's gotten. But, however, I think the Meta-Crisis Doctor angle is fairly similar to this, where another version of the 10th Doctor gets to live happily ever after in a parallel universe with Rose, as I mentioned in a previous video. I don't know how I feel about them replicating this idea, only because they love David Tennant, which I feel is very disingenuous to the show's core themes, where the Doctor passes on, not lives on with their own TARDIS. Seems a bit off to me knowing there's a Time Lord out there with his own TARDIS roaming the worlds. Felt like grandizing. Oh, I get the fact that he's loved, just feels like they're putting him off to the side as a backup plan just in case the 15th Doctor doesn't pan out as planned, so he can hop back in and save the show again. The issue I had with the bigeneration. I felt a bit divided with my attention trying to focus on the new Doctor and also David Tennant during Nikutsi's entrance scene, because the old Doctor usually passes on. I don't think that this was the brightest of ideas. There was a figurative passing of the torch per se. We did get a brief multi-Doctor story as well, even though the game of catch was just utterly ridiculous. I don't think I will be watching any more of Doctor Who, but I might tune into the Whoniverse to see what's what. The Christmas special does look great, and I hope you do all enjoy. I think the direction Doctor Who is going is against the core themes, and why even have life rules in your show if you're just going to ignore them? Well, I do believe that's everything I'm going to be saying about this show. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified on our next video. Let me know what your thoughts were on the Giggle special from Doctor Who. Well, as always, I will see you in the next video. Toodles!